The industrial development in Sweden has been very closely connected between government, industry, and education and research and innovation communities. So, for example, the development of energy production, energy distribution, all of that, and this is now a part of the Swedish industrial history then, which I'm mentioning. So, okay, if we take an example, this energy production, distribution, etc., there is a government agency acting as a so-called competent customer, putting the requirements on the industry, and also putting the orders on the industry, of course, when that was built up in Sweden at that time, and also acting to support with technical university research, etc. And this, as an example, has laid the foundation for SAAB, which was the predecessor to ABB, the ABB group. So you can see that that's coming in. And other spin-offs from that is, of course, robotics and automation and other areas which ABB today are active in. Another example is the telecommunication systems and infrastructure in Sweden. That was started very early, and the government agency there was a so-called Televerket, or the governmental telephone company, putting the requirements on the systems, putting the requirements on the standardization, etc. And together with the industry, which is Ericsson in this case, this has been a very successful way. But also here, the close connection between industry, government, and supported by the research community and the university, of course. The third example then is SAAB, or the Swedish defense systems. As I said earlier, in 1937, it was a decision taken that Sweden, for independent reason, needed to have a fighter aircraft production to supply that. In the Cold War, we were very close to Russia and just between the East and West. And we have always tried to stay neutral. And during the years, there have been a number of aircraft, from the Flying Barrel you looked on, or the B-17, up to the Gripen, which is being produced in Sweden. I think it's the Flying Barrel was manufacturing over 600 aircraft just for the Swedish use, and that's very much. But also here you have the customer. The government is the customer, and the Swedish Defence Material Administration putting the requirements, but they also had quite significant knowledge and capability. So they're working closely together with the defense industry, and also putting research projects, etc., to support the development. So we have had 4 or 5 different types of fighter aircraft since 1940s. Then. What's then so unique with this? Yeah, defense systems and the defense industry. And of course, some of the other examples we have been talking to also, there are challenging requirements which is driving the technology solutions. It's requiring advanced engineering, an advanced workforce, and an extensive collaboration with the research community. This generating the leading technologies and competences for applications outside the defense sector, because even if it's developed for a defense purpose, the people who are working with this development, they move to another company, and they have, of course, their knowledge with them. Another case of example of spillover, the safety airbag. As far as information I got is that the basic ideas comes from when the development of the Draken aircraft in the middle of the 50s. And the sensors and pyrotechnologies used there is now used in the ideas is used in the airbags, which we have in almost every car today. And in Sweden it was commercialized by Autoliv, and maybe they have also factories here, I'm not sure, but that's, I would guess so. Another example here is a company called SAAB Marine Electronics. I'm not sure if it's called that right now, but it has been sold off because that's not in our core business. But it's based on radar, I think it was on radar altimeter for missiles, to measure the amount of oil or liquids in tankers. So you can measure the height of how much oil there is in, and then calculate how much oil there is in the tanker. This company is now generating a turnover of more than $150 million. Car and truck industry, there have also been spin-offs into both of these areas. Not so very long ago, maybe 15, 20 years, there were 10, 15 years, it was a company called SAAB Scania. SAAB Automobile is a spin-off from the aircraft industry. It was formed in a separate company in 1990, and it was sold off to General Motors. And you have probably read that story about these companies. Also, the Scania trucks was then part of SAAB Scania. It's now has also been into a separate company, and Scania is well-known here in Brazil. And also in here, there have been corporations, and you can maybe see some cockpit design, man-machine integration into the cars. You can see where they're coming from, aerodynamics, materials, manufacturing methods, etc. I remember long ago there was an ad for the SAAB automobile, the cars that they call low-flying quality cars, and still they are using the heritage of the aerospace in the marketing sometimes. So the defense industry and advanced technologies, it's a resource for growth. The knowledge is spread through movements in the labor market, as I mentioned before. And the technologies are both spun in and spun off. I will come back to a little bit of that. In the development of the technology, you need new inputs, and the technology you have developed and not need for your core business, you can, say, form a company and spin out instead. So the national innovation system and the industrial base are then developed for growth. It's very important that they are working, as we think in the tradition I come from, that they are working closely together. So this defense industry, it could also be said that it's like a technical university. I mean, both white and blue-collar workers are recruited into a company. It could be SAAB, it could be Embraer, it could be whatever. And they work there with high technology development, and let's say that for an average, they work there for 6 years. They have then learned to work with the new processes and advanced technologies and so on in these 6 years, and they go on to the next company. It could be manufacturing, it could be development, etc. But the thinking and the baseline will be there. And also, it's similar to then the students coming into the university, and they are filled with knowledge and come out and work in the